On December 15th, 2013, fierce fighting erupted in Juba, South Sudan's capital, between different factions of the South Sudanese leading party, the Sudan People's Liberation Movement. The SPLM has an affiliated army called the Sudan People's Liberation Army. Both army and movement are grouped under the SPLMA, which is a political party, a liberation movement, and an affiliated army. The two main ethnic groups forming the SPLM are the Dinka and the Nuer. The leader of the Dinka is the elected South Sudanese president Salva Kiir. The Nuer are headed by his vice president Riek Machar. Accounts differ as to why the fighting started, but the government of South Sudan claims it is Riek Machar who was planning a coup to overthrow President Kiir. Machar denied this, arguing that Kiir was trying to quash political opposition. The president arrested 11 of the top party members, some of whom were government ministers, but Riek Machar managed to escape from Juba and on December 18th publicly called for Kiir's overthrow. By December 23rd, forces claiming loyalty to the ex-vice president had taken control of the capitals of Jonglei and Unity states, as well as the oil fields in Unity and Upper Nile states. Riek Machar is now the political leader of the SPLMA in opposition. This politico-military movement is composed of defectors of the South Sudanese army, ex-government officials, and is aided by other smaller militias belonging to a variety of ethnic groups tired of President Kiir's dictatorial tendencies. The fighting that had started in Juba in December took to the rest of the country, killing more than 10,000 people in April 2014, including thousands of civilians, and displacing more than 1 million South Sudanese fleeing the war. The roots of this conflict can be traced back to the Second War of Independence for South Sudan, which started in 1983 and ended in 2005. The South Sudanese were divided between conflicting ethnic groups, but all had a common enemy, Sudan, so they joined forces under the SPLM. The war ended with a comprehensive peace agreement which gave 6 years to the SPLM to transform its liberation movement into a cohesive political party capable of governing after independence in 2011. The aim was for the SPLM to democratize its movement and give representation to the various political strands and ethnic groups under its umbrella organization. Once the war was over, the common goal of independence disappeared, and tensions resurfaced between groups in South Sudan. However, the SPLM leadership neglected minority discontent and focused on winning internal political battles to keep leading the party. The South Sudanese leaders dismissed their duty of nation building and did not make the reforms they needed to avoid this crisis. What started as a political struggle has now slipped into an ethnic conflict, as the majority of the Dinka population supports Kiir and the Nuer widely support Machar. In South Sudan, political affiliations often follow ethnic lines. There are many reports of Dinka fighters killing Nuer civilians and vice versa. In between this major divide, young fighters from other ethnic groups have mobilized and are responding to attacks against community members elsewhere in a widening circle of reprisal and revenge. There have already been 2 unsuccessful attempts at ceasefires made by the Intergovernmental Authority on Development in Addis Ababa. However, at the beginning of June 2014, Kiir and Machar agreed to a truce, forcing the parties to form a transitional government of national unity within 60 days. If this fails, neighboring countries in the US have promised to impose sanctions on the parties involved in the war.